So the Kroger store across from the new marketplace down in the Village of Coventry, that's closing then?
That will close when the new marketplace opens. And you know, that site location too is, I mean, it was the plan to consolidate the two anyway. But if you think about it from practical terms, that is a really dysfunctional traffic flow in and out of that shopping center. So even if we weren't building the marketplace store there, that'd be a tough one to keep going long term, so.
You said the Bluffton Road remodel was around $2 million,
Right.
and that's kind of a moderate size
Right.
remodel for you guys. So
Right.
how would you rank the remodel that's going to take place here in terms of, is it moderate size, is it bigger size than
You know, it's a little bit of a premature question. We won't know exactly until all of those merchandising departments come back in. We take a look at, you know, is their wish list financially feasible? Typically what they do is they ask for more than they think they're going to get. You know, there's some obvious horse trading by department. But then we have to do that, you know, feedback gathering process with the customers. So until all that plays out, all I can do is speculate at a range. But I would say we're roughly in the same area.
Okay.
Does that seem, Chris, what do you think?
John, what was the?
Well, sorry, just a
I'm
minute.
sorry.
That would be in the food store itself. The fuel center would be on top of.
Okay.
Because Bluffton Road, that number isn't a fuel center too. So a fuel center is, depending on whether you have utility complications, site costs and things that aren't related directly to the fuel center itself, depending on whether you have that or not, 850,000 or so these days. And a fuel center brings 4 to 6 new jobs on its own. And 4, 5, or 6 is really dependent on how many are part-time and how many are full-time.
So does Rogers own this property too then? Or you
No.
mentioned,
No.
okay, I was just confused because you mentioned talking with Rogers in terms of.
Well, the conversation with the Rogers was only related to the north end of the store. You know, they're the landlord and we're the tenant, so ultimately, final decision.
Next year? Yeah, over the next year.
Yeah.
And then,
The fuel center was already being talked about for a 2013 project. So what we'll do is see if we can accelerate it from where it originally fell in the timeline.
and then, what is the current length of the lease then that you have at the North Anthony store? Is that, I mean, is the lease term that you have currently like up soon or?
Well, I'm going to answer your question differently. Because as of the signing of an agreement between Kroger and the Rogers yesterday, there is no lease remaining.
Okay.
So one, I'm not going to get into specifics in terms of that agreement, in part because we agree to confidentiality on both sides, and hopefully the Rogers will abide by that too.
But it would have involved a buyout of some kind.
One thing it did is essentially relieve Kroger from the remaining term of the lease. So, or knock this over eventually. So essentially they let us out of the rest of the lease. I mean, that's kind of obvious. We can't continue to run a store in there, so why would we lease it?
What was the date of the Bluffton Road grand reopening? I missed that.
December. I don't think we've pinned down a specific date.
By December, yeah.
Yeah, you know, the closer you get to the date, the more real
Sure.
the target is, and we do have a date on the books that I don't recall, but once you know, once all the construction work is done and you're doing sort of restocking and remodel and all, you can tell a little more closely. But when you're operating a store while you're remodeling, it can throw the timing off a little bit.
You said next week for the pharmacy to be the discounted prices. Do you have any specific day next week that people can know, hey, if I wait in line here, I can get discount drugs?
No,
Pharmacy products.
I'm glad you asked that
Sorry, yeah.
question because actual, you know, medications and those sort of things won't be part of the discount. So the discount will only apply to, and may not be 100% of that. There are times when the decision is not up to us. You know, we can't discount alcohol. You know, we can't discount cigarettes below state minimum. We can't discount the prescriptions at all. So you're talking, that store has a mix of general merchandise, makeup, what else is in there?
Little grocery, some grocery.
Yeah,
not
some,
too much.
so that's what we're really talking
So
about.
yeah, can you sum that up? What will be discounted?
Are we safe to say everything except cigarettes, alcohol, and prescription pharmaceuticals.
Yeah, there will be some other products that will picked up, for example, greeting cards, those sort of things. So the things that are on the shelf right now, what we call over the counter, so aspirins, that sort of thing, any grocery items that are remaining on the shelf, those will be discounted. To John's point, as far as beer, wine, liquor, cigarettes, anything behind the counter in the pharmacy will not be discounted.
It starts immediately, right?
That will start sometime next week.
Right.
Next week?
Right.
Yep.
So they'll be advertising, including your paper likely, they'll throw out those details. So at the same time, our merchandising departments were given instructions yesterday afternoon to start coming up with what do they want here. The advertising department was given instructions to start putting together an ad plan for next week. So, as we stand here this morning, they're working on that.
Where have North Anthony store employees been working for the last 3 months?
I'm going to pass that to Chris. Do you need Chris to come over here to answer, to pick it up, or?
I don't have a recorder.
Particular location, the Scotts North Clinton location, our West State location, Georgetown location. So they've all been working, and they've all been working in proximity to this location here, or the North Anthony location.
John, the neighborhood associations and neighbors and
Right.
even the city councilmen have been pretty vocal about you guys keeping that store open in the mics. They're gonna, obviously, when this word gets out, they're gonna be unhappy about this decision. What would you say to them about this?
There's, as we looked at all the options and all the opportunities, we realized that every option had some part of the stakeholder group that would be pleased and some that would be displeased. And in the end, we did the best decision we could. We do believe that configured right, the Clinton Street store will serve those customers very well, just as it serves the existing customers of the store. And point of fact, a significant number of the North Anthony customers have moved to this store. Not all of them. They're not all happy. We understand that. We're just frankly going to focus on doing our best with how we remodel this store to serve them. We'll continue to answer inquiries, and I know there've been a lot of inquiries that have come to my office and at store level too, but the volume has slowed a bit. I don't mean that they care less, or I'm not implying anything by that. I did speak to Councilman Yale last evening, gave him a courtesy update, and he requested that conversation, permission to notify the leadership of the neighborhood associations, and I agreed at the time and said that would be fine. I obviously asked him not to share specific details or content, but that, and in his communication, he could invite them here this morning. I honestly don't know. Whatever he sent out in terms of an invitation, I didn't see it, so I don't know. He did send me an email later saying he'd sent a note, but I didn't see the content of that, so I don't know how effectively that invitation got out, really. But we're available. We're going to have some conversations. If we get inquiries from the neighbors, we'll answer them as we have been all along.
This store will remodel, but not necessarily expand.
No, I don't think the configuration allows for or even needs an expansion. We've gotten pretty good as a company with several thousand food stores around the country at figuring out how to use the existing real estate or square footage pretty well. A lot of our remodels are what we call within the wall remodel. It's just a matter of using the space smarter or changing the mix of products a little bit. I don't think we could expand if we want to, depending on the site. We have a parking issue, and probably an expansion of the building would negate the ability to do a fuel cell or anything too. So again, I'm not the engineer, I'm speculating a little bit.
Will this store close while it's being remodeled?
No. You might see temporary disruption to some functional areas of the store, but and one of the things we did a couple years ago is to take a district manager, an operator of a group of stores, and transfer her into our engineering department. So her responsibility really is to look over the shoulder of the engineers, the construction process, to talk to the store manager while it's still operating, and make sure that they're minimizing any impact on customers, on associates. You know, she is really kind of the watchdog for the store running well, meeting food safety requirements, cleanliness requirements, you know, customer wait time, all of that. Any disruption is minimized, and Karen Hansen is the associate's name. I think she's done a great job. I mean, even the engineers who she's kind of sometimes nagging or pushing or saying, no, do it this way because you're going to bother the customers if you do it that way. It's a great process. It really works well. And so Karen will have a role in making sure this store runs well, but the remodel happens well also.
You mentioned fuel, you were looking at that here next year,
Right.
regardless. Was there a remodel at all until this North Anthony thing?
Not in the short term. You know, I mean, every year, every Kroger store in the country is evaluated and scored or ranked in terms of capital investment need. And so, you know, the stores in this division are ranked, you know, 1 down through the bottom in terms of prioritization. So potentially, any year, this store could have popped up or scored strong in terms of need for remodel. But we generally have a 1 through 5 year plan on capital projects with the most detail in the current year. I mean, a fully defined project, and then a little less detail in the second year. And by the time you get to year 5, it's only conceptual. So in that 5-year horizon, I don't think this one was on the list at all. It wasn't.
So this remodel is in direct
It's
response?
directly a result of the North Anthony closing. And so I think I said so earlier, but also in the, you know, we announced 70+ million in investments in stores in '09, and then later in '09, we announced we were buying 4 shopping centers, so that added another 30 million or so. Since that time, we've actually added several smaller projects and reconfigurations and things would be on top of that. So I think by the time we really finish the plan, we'll be at 105 million plus. Clinton Street may push it to 107 or 108.
How does that stack up with investments in other markets, your markets around the country? I know it's probably unusual.
Right.
We've got 2 marketplaces here and that kind of thing.
Yeah, actually it is, it's top 10 in the nation for Kroger over this multi-year horizon. It's one of the largest capital investments anywhere in the country in terms of concentrated on one marketplace. So yes, it's a good question. It's an unusual amount of investment. And 100 million in Fort Wayne is a lot. You know, 100 million in, say, the Indianapolis market might be less significant, but even there it'd be significant for us.
Understandably, it'll take some time, engineering and architecture, but when might this project here start?
That's partially within our control and partially not. You know, so at the point we get ready to go to, you know, local government for review and approval, and you know, but I would think it will be several months just designing and fine tuning, and then the approval process in some communities can be a matter of on the next scheduled meeting or 2 and through, and so less than a month. And you have some where it drags out a little bit.
So it could be next year.
Oh, I think definitely, yeah. You know, I would hope that things are expedited effectively enough that we see some activity by year end. But you know, don't hear that as a commitment. That's just a hope that every step goes smoothly between now and then.
What's the total number of employees at the Anthony store? Or is that-
63.
Okay.
I don't know the ratio of full-time and part-time, but most stores it's 60-40.
Does that include the pharmacy or?
Yes.
All set?